You know what? I'm still picking the Canon M50 over the Sony A6500. But in a turn of events and an update from 1 year ago, I'm also choosing the M50 over the EOS R, the A7 III, and this one actually hurts me inside, the A6400. And here's why. What's up everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Now if you saw Monday's video, we did mention it then, but recently I've decided to start getting serious with my second YouTube channel, and I've been on the hunt for a camera that is small, high quality, and could travel with me to do outdoor gear review videos, but it also needs to be rather durable, as if you've watched this channel for any amount of time, you know that I'm prone to dropping and breaking gear pretty often. You just gotta know who you are. Spoilers for the video, not much has changed since I picked the M50 over the Sony A6500 last year. The biggest update really is my own usage and requirements out of the cameras, plus dunking on some of the other brands, and that can be a fun exercise, and there are way more dunks this year. Thankfully, I have the very good fortune to have access to just about every consumer level camera released in the last few years, and it came down to two unconventional choices, and it ended up with one selectee, and darn it, it was close, and I still kind of regret it all at the same time, because that EOS R C-Log, that almost pushed it all the way for me. Obviously, from the intro and title of the video, I did end up again selecting the Canon M50 over several higher end, more expensive, and more feature-packed cameras. Which sounds crazy, right? I mean, that does not sound right. But you know what? Let's actually throw this on and be a B camera for the rest of the video so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, even if you wanted to use this as a studio camera. So, there we go. You are now the B camera. Welcome to the team. Now, when you get right down to it, Canon and Sony are basically the two biggest players in the YouTube camera game. I mean, yes, there are some Panasonic users out there, and I think I even saw a Fuji shooter or two once. And in a surprising big change from last year's video, I'm currently recording on a Nikon. Does anything make sense anymore? Like, who would have thought? Despite Canon having such a huge number lead over everyone else, recent reports said that in 2018 they had a 40% share of the market. I've only really ever used the M50 for any length of time, and for a few key reasons. Number one, the image quality. The M50 is basically a much smaller 80D, and the 80D has been a staple of the video world online for years now. Many top creators to this day still use the 80D, and honestly, I believe that that camera will be a player moving forward into 2020. Now, this video is not about the 80D, but basically all of that picture quality with an updated processor is inside of the M50. The reason I bring up the 80D is it's a 1080p camera. I mean, its best resolution is that good old standby, and while the M50 can technically record in 4K, my main requirement was good 1080p, because if I do end up traveling more, I do not want to deal with 4K. I want the smallest files possible to go along with the smallest camera possible. More on the physical aspects later, but when I'm here in the studio I can do 4K. I've got a very robust computer to do that, but when I'm out and about, 4K is just not worth the hassle. And the 1080p, like you can see right now, I mean, it's good on the M50. I mean, it's pretty darn good. Now, it's not EOS R levels of good. I mean, honestly, the EOS R has probably the best 1080p I've ever personally recorded, but the M50's 1080p is good enough to get the point of the video across. Now, I do wish it had a little more dynamic range, or even had Canon's log profile built in, but it has plenty of sharpness, and even with its native 22mm f2 lens, you can get a little bit of shallow depth of field if you really want one. Additionally, and I don't normally talk about stills all that much, part of the YouTube game is getting thumbnails for your videos that gets clicks. And something that I'm finding out with this tiny camera is it's a thumbnail machine. It can capture in Canon RAW and Canon RAW Lite for stills, but those files have some serious quality to them, and even for the main channel, like even the main channel here, this has become my thumbnail camera over the last couple of weeks. Like Monday's thumbnail was taken on the M50. Sure, image quality is great and all that, but what about what you actually want and getting that into focus? Like, that's kind of important too, right? And that's another huge win for the M50. When recording in 1080p, you know, that resolution that I really want to use, it has Canon's dual pixel autofocus, which, while not king of the mountain anymore, I mean, Sony definitely stole that crown in the last few months with the autofocus in the A6400 that so good, but it works incredibly well. Now, if you have a YouTube channel that involves you talking to a camera, you owe it to yourself to have a camera like the M50 where you never ever have to worry if you are in focus or not. One of my problems with other brands of cameras, even if they have phase detection autofocus, is I can't always trust that it's working, nor do I have time to babysit the screen to ensure focus. And trust me, once you break my trust with your autofocus, it's real hard for me to trust you again. Fujifilm, you know what you did. Great, the autofocus works. Awesome, let's move on and never talk about it again. Well, not so fast, because this point is really important to me, and I feel like it's one of the big divides between quote unquote pro and YouTuber. To get the most creative freedom out of a camera, I need it to be a working member of the crew. It's gotta be smart, and it's gotta help me out by focusing on what I need it to. I don't have a crew. I mean, it's just me making all of these videos, and I can't be tasked to do much when the cameras are recording. I mean, I cannot engage with you and the camera at the same time. So good autofocus is a requirement for me, and that's another thing the M50 has over the competition. However, there are plenty of cameras with great autofocus anymore. I mean, Sony, heck, even Nikon. We are currently using face detection autofocus with the Nikon Z6 now, and it is usable. So what makes the M50 special? What makes you special? Well, part of it is this fully articulating screen. If you're in focus, but you aren't properly framed, or the exposure's way off the charts, then sorry, focus didn't actually matter in that case. Now, this screen does dual duty in letting you both see the shot when you're in front of the camera. Like right now, I can see what the image looks like, which, yeah, is important. I mean, anyone that thinks otherwise must have a crew or unlimited patience for reworking shots. I don't have either. Probably could use a little bit more of that patience stuff though. But the second and most important aspect for me, and why this edges out the A6400, even though I legitimately love the A6400, is this screen just isn't pretty. Like, it's just not a pretty screen that I get to stare at my beautiful self in. It's a touch screen, and from it, you can change everything about the camera. White balance, exposure, resolution, frame rate, everything. Everything can happen without breaking the shot, and either taking the camera like into your hands and change the settings around, or moving it, getting up around, coming back. Everything about online video production is smoothing out friction and making the creation process as easy as possible. And you might not think that these little time savers are worth it, but I spend a lot of time setting up and tearing down cameras, and each one of those instances adds up to a big difference. Something else about the flip screen that edged out the A6400 is when you have it stowed or when you aren't using the camera, you have the screen protected from the elements or from getting scratched in your bag because of how that screen works and flips back around on the body. I mean, the tilt screen cameras, their screens all face out no matter what. And while you can put a screen protector on it, you absolutely should, I'd rather just have it be fully protected by the camera itself. And you know, none of that matters if the audio is terrible. And the selection of the M50 over something like a point and shoot, like my RX100 Mark V that I like so much, is that it has both a hot shoe on top and a microphone in jack. Now, this combination allows for easy installation of external microphones. So something like this Rode VideoMic Pro Plus easily hangs on top and allows for much better audio quality instead of relying on generally terrible internal camera microphones like you can hear right now because the camera's so far away. This is what internal audio sounds like. It's not good. The only real complaint I have about the M50 is you can't have both the live view on the screen and audio levels at the same time. Now, you can get both in the EOS R, the RP, the 60 Mark II. I mean, most of their bigger cameras have this very useful function. Please, Canon, release a firmware so I can see the audio. That would be so awesome. But once you do have it set up, I mean, you're pretty good to go. How often are you gonna change it? All of that aside, another real big reason to go with the M50 over something like the 80D, or heck, even the EOS R, is the size. The M50 is one of the smallest cameras I've ever used, and I don't just mean interchangeable lens cameras. It's not that much bigger than my previously mentioned RX100 Mark V, but it has all of the usabilities of a traditional camera. The focus on my other channel is not the camera gear, so size matters. Now, I'm planning on camping, being outdoors, and you know, walking long distances with a tripod or a monopod, and the last thing I want is something that adds bulk and weight. When I I just want to get out there and have fun doing outdoorsy stuff. Something else that's nice that I don't use very often because of that very useful touchscreen is it does have the physical dials and buttons that some people do look for and require. I mean, who doesn't love the little rotating dials to act as like a built-in fidget spinner while making video? It's like a camera and entertainment device all in one, and you don't even need batteries or power to turn that little dial over and over and over and over. It takes all of my willpower not to just continually spin that thing whenever I have the camera in my hands. Like, it's a struggle. And something that we don't talk enough online about is the price. This is one of the most reasonably priced cameras out there. Like, and it beat all of those other brands for me. Like, it's the smallest, it's got great image quality, and it's the cheapest at $650 with a kit lens? Like, how is that not a win all day long? Spoilers, it actually is a win all day long. Now, there are a lot of really great cameras out there from lots of brands. This video isn't to say that any of them are bad, because they aren't. This is to reaffirm that for somebody looking for a high quality, usable, and portable camera that runs mostly by itself, the Canon M50 is absolutely one of the best right now for features, specs, and even price, and it just trounces the competition for what it is. Thanks for watching.